So I'm Lucy Jaffé. I'm here today to talk to you about restorative justice. Who's heard of the phrase restorative justice? Yeah, has anyone had restorative justice or been through it? No, all right. Sorry? Yep. I am here today to talk about Why Me? Why Me, the charity that I represent. And I'm then going to talk... Oh, hang on. I'm going to talk about the problem of hate crime and what people harmed by crime want and what we found through our research, and I'll share that with you, and our work across the country. Oh no, sorry. Bear with me. I'll then let you know about what restorative justice is and how it works, and give you some different kind of ways in which it can be applied, evidence about the benefits, an example of hate crime and testimony from people who've been through restorative justice, and then just a quick overview of national and regional policy and what might be available to you in Waltham Forest to access restorative justice. So I'll start about Why Me. So Why Me was set up by a victim of crime. Will came home one day to his house in Islington, and he found Peter Wolf in his house, burgling his house. They fought, and he was hit over the head with a bit of the oven, and then Peter was arrested and taken to prison. He then met him in HMP Pentonville in a cell with some other victims, and he was able to ask his questions and tell him about the impact of his crime. He was terrified about going home and who he was going to find behind the door. He felt guilty that he couldn't protect his family, and he was furious. And in that meeting, he told Peter Wolf, the man who burgled him, how he felt. And for that man who'd been a career criminal, effectively, for the first time in his life, he realized how much he'd hurt somebody. And he really heard that. And from that day on, he never committed another crime, took drugs, or drank alcohol. And he still works with our organisation today. So we'll set up Why Me to open up restorative justice for all victims of crime. And what we do is we champion the cause for greater access through lobbying, through campaigning, through communications and information, which you can find on our website. And we also deliver restorative justice. So we pioneer and innovate the application of restorative justice in different settings. And we've just run a national, and we are running a national and a London project on restorative justice for hate crime, working with different, like with LGBT communities in Lambeth and Southwark, and also communities right across the learning disability and autism, people with learning disability and autism, so that we can then share that practice across the country, so that the restorative justice services in each area get a better understanding, start reaching more people, and aren't scared about using restorative justice for hate crime. There's quite a lot of kind of fear amongst professionals about using restorative justice for hate crime. So what do people harmed by crime want? Well, victims are often traumatized, don't report. Criminal justice system doesn't seem really the right kind of fit for purpose for what people want. They feel re-traumatized by reporting often, sometimes. Questions aren't answered. Even if there's a punishment, you still might have to live alongside that person who committed the crime. And what we found, and this is also based on evidence by researchers, is that generally people want access to comprehensive information. They want to be able to participate in their case, and they want to be able to receive equality of service. They need equitable access which is the right for them and their needs. And then really, really striking and actually counter-narrative to what's being told to us nationally is that people want emotional reconciliation. So there was a survey of 3,000 Muslim and LGBT people, and the overwhelming majority said that they would rather go through restorative justice than go see punishment, rather, than the punitive route, because that is often much, much more important, emotional reconciliation, than seeing some kind of financial or material reparation. So what is restorative justice? No? Am I going the right way? Okay. So restorative justice views crime as more than breaking the law. Crime causes harm to people, to relationships and communities. What restorative justice has is three really big ideas. It repairs, the idea is that the justice repairs the harm that crime causes. That the people involved are the people who come up with the solution about what to do next, through an encounter or a dialogue. And thirdly, that is transformative, so that dialogue has a potential to cause fundamental positive change in each of those people participating. And there are core restorative questions, so which I'll come to in a minute, but basically it's voluntary, totally voluntary on both sides, on all sides. It's neutral, so the people facilitating it are neutral. They're not saying, oh, well, you're a goodie and you're a baddie, or, you know, you must say sorry or whatever. They're completely neutral. It's accessible, so it has to be designed so that everybody can participate equally. It's restorative, so it addresses the impact of the harm. You don't necessarily go over all the details of the case, although you can, or what happened. But you can talk about you're talking about the impact of the harm. It's safe, so you always create a safe space. You never proceed if you think that there's going to be more harm caused, and it's respectful. So there's always like ground rules about respecting party and respectful language. And the core questions are, and everybody answers these: what happened? What were you thinking at the time? What were you thinking of? What have you thought about since? Who has been affected, and in what way have they been affected, and what can be done to make things right? Where's Mel? How long have I got? Where is it? Oh, I've got 2 minutes left. There's two principal forms of restorative practice. First of all, restorative justice between two parties where there's a conviction on a criminal process underway, and there you can maybe meet, or you can have a shuttle process where the facilitators go between one party and the other and convey a message. You might opt for a letter, but it's down to the people participating to decide what form they want that process to take. And then there is restorative approaches where you can address the impact of harm in any setting. So you can use it in a school where there's maybe between teachers, between parents and staff, between children. And in fact, those schools that use it often see a huge dip in the use of isolation units and exclusions. Neighbourhoods and workplaces, there's some really excellent examples of restorative justice being used on housing in housing blocks and housing estates. Workplaces, discrimination of hate perpetrated by services. So one of the areas we're working in, LGBT hate crime, often those people are saying the harm was caused by the police when I went in, and they used transphobic language. Or the gym that I went to, somebody was hateful towards me, and the gym just did nothing. So we have a meeting between the gym owner and the person who's been harmed. And that's huge. That means they can go to the gym, they feel safe, they feel supported. So restorative justice for hate crime addresses the impact of harm caused by hate. People can take back control by telling their story and having their voices heard. You get your questions answered, and you face your fears by meeting the harmer. But then also it brings, for the people who do it, brings people's suffering into focus and breaks down prejudice and increases the understanding of the impact. It provides a positive way forward. So you agree what's going to happen next between you. There's people who've been through it say, I just wanted it to stop. And this person who is a victim of anti-Semitic hate crime, I just felt that offenders needed to understand the true impact of their actions and become better examples to their own children and friends. So I opted to try restorative justice. I wanted to be able to walk safely in the streets without fear. It was not a case of me getting revenge, but to educate the men involved, as what they had done stemmed from ignorance. And then there's another example, a victim of homophobic hate crime where the perpetrating the crime was a bus driver, and the person who the victim, I just wanted that person never to do it again to anyone else. So they met them in a restorative meeting. This is Anne-Marie. I hope you can see her video later. She was bullied on the bus, and she made this video as part of a restorative process, which has now gone around all the schools. And what she said, it's not who you are, it's inside that counts. So she opted to make a video. The children didn't get criminalised for their bullying, but all the children in the area got the advantage of hearing her speak about the impact of of that bullying on her. I'm going to leave it. Is that it?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Great.